Good evening. I'm Dr. Jennifer Spring. I'm the superintendent of the Cohoes City School District, and I welcome our parents tonight to our first virtual parent academy. Off to a great start, social emotional supports. So we welcome you and we thank you for joining us. You will also get an opportunity to ask questions. So let's see. All right, so if you'd like to ask any questions, please feel free to send them to feedback@cohoes.org, and I will share them on our presentation tonight, and our panelists and our featured presenters will be answering them. So who are our featured presenters? So I'm very, very happy to introduce Mrs. Erin Hill, our Director of Special Programs. And she received her graduate degree in school psychology from the State University of New York at Buffalo and her certificate of advanced study in school district leadership from the College of St. Rose. She also worked as the Cohoes Middle School psychologist for 10 years before moving into this administrative position, which I believe you've had. You've served us for 6 years as the Director of Special Programs. Is that correct, Mrs. Hill?
Actually, this is my 8th year.
8th year. Okay, so it was before I got here. So fair. So wow, time flew by. Your 8th year. So
I know. I feel like you just outed me, Dr. Spring. Now everybody can calculate my age.
All good. All good. And I'm also very pleased to introduce Rachel Marcel. Mrs. Marcel is a proud graduate of Cohoes High School. After high school, she attended Marist College in Poughkeepsie, where she received her bachelor's degree in social work. From there, she went on to the University at Albany, where she received her master's degree in social work. Rachel will be starting her 15th year as the school social worker at Harmony Hill. In January of 2019, she started in the School Building Leader program at the University of Albany and is on schedule to graduate this May. So she is an administrative intern with us this year, as well as a full-time social worker at Harmony Hill. Rachel and her husband, Mike, are proud members of the Cohoes community, and their 2 children are students in our school district. So thank you for joining us this evening, Mrs. Hill and Mrs. Marcel. And now I would like to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Spring. I appreciate that lovely introduction. So tonight we wanted to take you through some ideas for helping to successfully get our students back into the swing of learning this fall. We know times are different. We're living through a pandemic. I know I personally never thought in my lifetime I would ever live through something like this, something that has changed so significantly how we do things on a daily basis. So what I wanted to start with is nervous is normal. And I can thank Mrs. Flato, the social worker at our middle school, for this. She said it to a group of my 5th graders who will be transitioning to her in the spring when we had one of our meetings. And I thought that just fit so perfectly tonight. Nervous is normal. We are living through different times. Our kids have now been away from us for roughly 6 months when we look at, the closure in March and coming back in September. While we did have virtual learning, they weren't, regular in-person instructional days for our kiddos. Many of our students have had limited contact with their peers during this time. So even just, some students might be really excited to come back and see their friends. Some students that may be causing some nervousness in them. Many students have spent a great amount of time at home. I know our summer here looked a lot different than typical summers look. Sports camps, vacations, things like that are very different now. And some students have really been home with, their preferred people, whether that's a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle. So separating and heading back to school, especially under these different circumstances, can be, nerve provoking or, anxiety provoking in some ways. But I want to say not being nervous is also okay. Some students may be really excited about getting back into the groove of school, and that is also okay. However, we recognize as a district that some students may be very nervous, and we want to make sure that you as parents have all of the knowledge you need about how we will support your students this year. And we want you to know that we are here, we are working hard, and we know that students are all experiencing different feelings right now. And we parents are nervous too. Like Dr. Spring said, I am also a parent. I have 2 children who attend our school district. My son will be starting middle school this year. This is a big transition year for my child as well. I'm super thankful to Mr. Martinelli and the staff at the Cohoes Middle School for still welcoming our students in small groups and taking that time to give them the tour and show them what middle school will look like, because I truly believe that went a long way to calm a lot of our students' nerves. But right now you can search, social media, the news, everywhere you look, there's stories about COVID. The good, the bad, and the ugly, they're all out there. And what I will say, my best personal advice is that children are going to take our lead. If we as parents are nervous about the return to school, if we're questioning a lot of things, if we're not sure what we should do about the return to school, if the return to school just seems so overwhelming, and we're talking about those things in front of our kiddos, certainly they will take the lead from us. That may cause them to become more nervous. So, part of what I want to talk about tonight is parents, it's okay to be nervous. It's 100% okay. But what we need to do is kind of keep those conversations between our spouses, our partners, our family members, our friends, and make sure that we're kind of shielding our kiddos from those conversations that might be difficult for them to hear. And at the bottom of this slide, you will see News 10, ironically, last week, I think it was the day that Dr. Spring had asked me to be a part of this presentation. They happened to do a story on school reopenings and how it can bring about anxiety for some and relief for others. So again, some kiddos are super excited. Some families are super excited. All right, we're getting back to a sense of normalcy. My kiddos will be going to school every day. But some kiddos are really having a hard time with this, from our youngest students to our oldest students. So again, nervous is normal. It's okay. We're all here to help take care of all of our students as they come back to us. So moving on, just here briefly, I wanted to show you who we have in place and what a great team we have in the Cohoes City School District. All of our schools have social workers, psychologists, or counselors who are there on a daily basis, who are ready to help ease the transition back to learning and make it as fun, as safe, and as secure as it can be for our kiddos. So at Harmony Hill, you'll see we have a full-time social worker, that's me. And we also have a school psychologist, Abram Lansings, a full-time social worker and a shared psychologist. Van Skyke, again, a full-time school social worker and a shared psychologist. At our middle school, we have a full-time social worker, a full-time psychologist, as well as 2 full-time school counselors. And at our high school, we have 2 school social workers, a psychologist, and 3 school counselors. So there are tons of social, emotional support staff to help your kiddos as they transition back. And I really want to stress that at all of our buildings, we have amazing teachers. They have been working so hard to prepare for this school year. They are so concerned about the students. They've been diligently training and practicing different ways of engaging with students this school year. Today, Mr. Perry and I did a video on our Harmony Hill community Facebook page. The teachers already have great ideas outside of their classrooms as to how they're going to greet their students each morning. We know that maybe hugs and handshakes can't happen this year, but we're being really creative. We've got the air high fives, the air hugs, the dabs, the foot pumps. We've got all different ways that kiddos will be able to be greeted each morning when they come in. Our teachers have also done a great deal of professional development in collaborative problem solving, trauma sensitive approaches, and they all really understand that relationships are a key indicator of success. And I can't stress enough that time and time again, whether it's a professional athlete or somebody in our own community, you hear these stories of relationships where it was a teacher, a mentor, a coach, somebody in the child's life with who they had a relationship with, and that was the reason they succeeded. So we value relationships. I need all parents to know that. We sincerely value the relationships that your students will have with their teachers and their school staff. And we know and we place these relationships at the forefront of all we do. We know that when children have a great relationship with staff members, they want to work harder. They feel more successful when they know that somebody believes in them. They're willing to put a great deal of effort in when those relationships are present. So we know that things will be different this year for sure. But we as teachers and school staff are working diligently to make sure that our students feel comfortable and safe as they head back to school and learning. So what is social emotional learning? I know this came up at a board meeting, I believe last week. So I have there for you a resource from the CASEL website about exactly what social emotional learning is. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what it is and why we do this with our students. But basically it is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain the relationships we were just speaking about. So social emotional learning is kind of all of that feelings-based stuff that we do in schools. And all of those kind of soft skills, people call them, that we want students to learn and take away from their educational career. Not just reading, writing, math, social studies, etc. So we have many different ways in which we teach social emotional learning in our schools. It may be through a specific program like Strong Kids, Strong Start, Second Step. It may be through the use of classroom discussions, the use of books, the use of morning meetings where we have different topics and ideas that we're discussing with students. So it's not always necessarily through a specific program, but we value this and we find it very important that we are also teaching these skills with our students each day. And if you go to the CASEL website, you will see that they have some really good resources as far as what social emotional learning is. They have some specific core competencies they talk about that you can see there on the screen: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. All of those are a part of social emotional learning. And we do this as a part of the support that we offer. I know at Harmony Hill, one of the things I've been able to do is go right into classrooms and teach whole group social emotional lessons. I call it a bigger bang for my buck. I can go in and see all of the kids in a classroom, whether that's 15, 20, 22 students, and we can all be engaged in learning about a specific area of social emotional learning at the same time. So again, we value this, and as you'll see on the next slide, one of the things I'm really excited about is that at the elementary level this year, in kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms, whether students are learning virtually or in person, they will all be exposed to the Second Step program. This will be taught each week. There's a weekly lesson that will be covered. And there's also follow-up activities that they'll be able to do throughout the week. And there is also a family component. So there is that home school connection where teachers are able to send home what the weekly lesson looked like, what it was about. On the screen, you will see one of the posters that we use in our Second Step lesson, which is particularly about empathy. So for instance, when the class is learning about empathy that week, the teacher can then send home what were the specific areas they talked about, how families and parents can instill and reinforce empathetic behaviors at home, some different ways of practicing. Some of the other units covered include, they're listed there for you: problem solving, fair ways to play. We talk a lot about feelings identification. We talk a lot about coping skills. what's going to help us calm down when we are feeling angry or upset. Things aren't always going to go our way during playtime activities. Somebody may not want to play with us. Somebody may want to play with us, but we want to play with somebody else. At the elementary level, these are, important lessons for children to be able to learn and navigate. There's also lessons, I believe, on being assertive, being able to kind of speak up for ourselves when that is warranted. So overall, I find this to be a fantastic program. I know at Harmony Hill, we piloted it last year in our kindergarten and first grade classrooms. I was fortunate enough to be a guest teacher for most of the year in our first grade classrooms, and was able to teach it with our students. It is a really fun and engaging program, I can say, at the elementary level. There's the use of songs and music and books and puppets. I know Puppy and Snail were a favorite in the classrooms. Those were the two puppets that I had for the first grade curriculum. So it is really engaging. It's very developmentally appropriate. And I truly believe this will be a nice addition to all of our classrooms, both virtual and in person this year.
So, hi, I get to talk about the secondary level, our social emotional supports, because that has been my area of expertise, first as the middle school psychologist, and now as special programs director. I do focus on our secondary and out of district students more, and Mrs. Renesi does much of the work with our elementary and preschool students. So first, at this level, I want to say that social emotional learning and feelings are incredibly important. And one fabulous and easy way that we can help our students in this area is to be very practical. To the fact that you are here now and that you're listening to this, whether it's live right now or whether it's recorded later, is a great first step. It shows that you're interested in wanting to know what are the steps that you can take in order to help your child feel more comfortable and feel more at home with being at school or at home with being a virtual learner. So when we get up to the secondary level, throughout the district, but especially at the secondary level, adults that interact with our students every day, our teachers, aides, custodial staff, provide the frontline supports that our students need, from just creating a comfortable environment to doing daily check-ins to just kind of being that friendly ear when a student is confused or frustrated or upset with something. These grown-ups that, as Ms. Marcel said before, are really good at establishing relationships with your students, your children. These grown-ups are kind of our front lines. They're like our early warning system for all of our students. They let the helping professionals, the social workers and psychologists and school counselors who may not be interacting with students regularly on a daily basis, they let them know when there's a student that needs some more support or something more specific than can happen in the classroom or in the hallway where they have their conversations. So our school social workers and psychologists and counselors work with students individually or in small groups to find solutions and to develop skills that will help them be more comfortable and more focused in school. Ideally, we want to have our goal in these departments is to be the purveyors of brief solution-focused intervention. Our goal, my goal when I was a school psychologist, was to help a student figure out what the problem is and develop the skill that they need so that they can not be focused on whatever it is that's upsetting to them, but that they can focus on their work at school. And that really is all of our jobs, psychologists and social workers and counselors. Our job is to work with the teachers that work with students every day and to help them have skills to help students stay on track. And then when that doesn't work, we're the second level, we're the next layer, and we try to meet with those students and teach them skills, help them practice, give them alternative behaviors so that they can put whatever it is that's bothering them aside or deal with it or put it in the back of their mind to talk to someone later and be able to work on their schoolwork, because we don't want them to be falling behind. We don't want them to be disgruntled and grouchy in class and end up storming out. You know, we want them to be able to stay there and participate in their learning, because that's what's really going to benefit them in the long run. So when we have students who are facing, at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school, when we have students who are facing more significant and in-depth difficulties with self-management or with handling their own anxiety or their worries, we will, of course, continue to work with them at school, both our teachers and our intervention specialists, but we will also perhaps refer students and families for community-based counseling as well, which may include at our Northern Rivers Satellite Clinic, which is located right in the middle school office on the first floor.
So how do we do this? How do we help our kids transition back to school successfully this fall in the midst of a pandemic where things might be, more scary than the average return to school, or there might be, more nerves, or there might be more questions. These are some of the tips that I have to share with you tonight. The first is to have open and honest discussions. So again, referring back to the first slide I discussed, this doesn't mean talking to your child about adult stuff. It means talking with them about their concerns, about what they're worried about. If they are expressing that they're nervous about going back to school, it's okay to be honest with them about, yes, desks at school will be 6 feet apart this year. Things will look a little different. You won't be using water fountain. You're going to have to bring your own water bottle. Maybe getting a nice new water bottle, a refillable one, might be something that you want to do together. When you're having these discussions and some of these, worries or particular things that your child is worried about come up. It means really listening to your child and listening to understand what they're feeling, helping them kind of make sense of their worries. And sometimes really all a child needs is to be heard. Sometimes once they can get it out and they can talk about it, they do feel a lot better. And I recommend keeping the conversations based around your child's maturity level and age. Kindergartners, you're going to, talk a certain way with and offer certain advice and share certain things with them, versus what you would talk about with a high school student. The conversation should be appropriate for their age and their maturity. Older ones may talk more openly. Older ones may be more guarded. We have high schoolers who really love to kind of hide behind the phones and the electronics these days. So it might be a little harder to pull it out of them, but I would say make time to have a conversation even with your older students to make sure, you know how they're feeling, kind of have a check-in as we are getting closer to the return to school. And also it's okay to share with your kids what their responsibility is, returning to school during the COVID time, as far as hand washing, what should that look like? How long should they be washing for? We certainly will be asking students at all grade levels this year to wash their hands on a regular basis or to use hand sanitizer. Not touching our face, good mask protocol. Those are all things to have those open and honest conversations with your students or your kids about before coming back to school. Naming fears to tame fears. Little, younger children, little kids that I've, primarily worked with in the K-5 arena at Harmony Hill, sometimes we have to really name what they're talking about. We have to give it a name. For some kids, it's, something silly like their worry monster. For other kids, it's just knowing that there's a word or a catchphrase that we know what we're talking about. We're using the same language together and they know that I know what they're nervous about. So once you have a common language and you understand what the worry is, that's a great place to start talking more about what makes the worry worse and what makes the worry better. Coping strategies are something we teach, and it's something, parents, if you want, you can start going over with your kids. There's great resources out there, but, we teach different things such as deep breathing, talking about our worries. For some students, drawing, coloring, journaling, listening to music, are all things that may help to calm those worries that they're having. Oftentimes, kids do feel better just talking with a safe, trusted adult about their worries. And whenever I do trainings or I'm talking about kids feeling anxious or worried or nervous, I always say, think about the last time you worried. What helped you feel better? And I know for me, it's usually as simple as talking to one of my girlfriends, having a conversation about whatever it is that's going on, or talking to my husband about, something that might be bothering me or on my mind. And for our kids, it's not always that different. Sometimes just having that listening ear and knowing that somebody has really heard them and understands what they're feeling and what they're worried about, sometimes that can be enough to just help calm those worries. Really listening. In today's world, it's tough. We have devices, we have cell phones, we have iPads, we have, our PS4s and our Xboxes, and everybody is, busy. A lot of families are working from home. We're constantly checking, I know I'm guilty of this. I'm checking email from my cell phone. I'm constantly kind of connected to work. We're working on reopening our schools. There's a lot to be done. So when it comes to really listening, that means, we have to have no distractions. We need to have our cell phone away. Our child needs to know they have our undivided attention, especially if it's something significant that they need to talk to us about. And sometimes, with our older students or older kids, that might mean, okay, mom's in the middle of an email. Can you give me 5 minutes? And then let's go up to your room. We'll sit, we'll talk. I really want to hear what you're saying. Sometimes it's letting them know, later after dinner, let's have dinner, let's clean up, and let's, have a chance to talk then. Or let's take a walk and, talk then, because then there is no distractions of what's going on at home. So, I just highly recommend really listening, making sure that there's not distractions, making sure that our children always feel heard in those moments that they do want to share with us what might be on their mind about this return to school. Problem solving together. I highly recommend, and I know it's in the article that is linked to this slide, that you both offer suggestions to the worries, to the problems that come up. If they're worried about wearing their mask to school all day, maybe you talk about how we can practice wearing our mask for an hour each day, and then we can increase it to 2 and 3 hours a day. There's a pretty genius parent out there who put on social media, have your child wear their mask whenever they're playing on their electronic device. I thought that was genius. We know our students have, electronics at home. Some parents have, stricter limits than others, but whenever they're on an electronic device, whether it's watching TV, whether it's on a gaming program, whether it's on their laptop, have the practice during that time. So again, different solutions to problems and coming up with those together. If they're worried about, that first day of school and walking in and I'm not going to know anybody or my friends aren't going to remember me, is there somebody we can get in touch with? Is there somebody that you could maybe arrive at the same time with, you could walk in with? If they're worried about, possible regression and not feeling confident in their school skills, this is a great time to start practicing some reading and some math together. There's great websites for the older kids to go to. Just picking up any book in your house, whether it's a comic book, whether they're reading an article online, anything that gets them kind of back into that school routine. I know we do have a lot of families, parents and students who are worried about that, that I haven't been in school. I haven't been learning the way I used to. I know I'm not going to, be as awesome as my math facts as I was when school ended in March. That's okay. And we as providers in the school, we understand that. We're prepared to assess our students, to get a baseline of where everybody is at and to keep on learning together. But if your student at home is feeling nervous about that, now is a great time to start practicing a little bit and just refresh some of those skills. And again, it doesn't have to be anything intense. It doesn't have to be read a paragraph and write for me about it. It can just be reading a story, about an athlete that, they really enjoy and just reading it together even, and having a conversation about it. But these are all possible problem solving activities. I know with the younger ones, if you have the Kissing Hand book, I'm not sure if that's on YouTube. That's a great one we use sometimes with our kiddos, about the separation that's going to occur. So, utilizing children's books is also a great way to problem solve. Focusing on the positive, focusing on that things are going to go well, I find to be really important as well. What are you looking forward to about school? It doesn't have to be always about what's making you nervous or, why don't you want to go back to school? It can be, what are you looking forward to? Who will you miss the most? What teacher are you so excited to see? Who can't you wait to talk to and tell about what you've been doing while you've been home? And the same thing when they return from school at the end of the day. What was the best thing that happened today? Tell me about something you learned today. What made you feel excited while you were at school today? And trust me, if something upset them at school that day, if something went wrong, they're going to tell you. But I always, I encourage parents to always try to focus on that positive first. What went right today? What was really good about today? Predictable routines. Part of why many students thrive in the school environment is because of the predictable routines that we have. They know what to expect each day. Classes are at the same time, math, ELA, science, social, they eat at the same time. The bells in the middle school and the high school ring at the same time each day. So routines are going to be crucial as we get back into, it's September 1st. As we get close to schools reopening, having those routines are going to be super important. Establishing bedtimes, times that they wake up at. I know if your kids are anything like mine, sometimes they sleep until noon. That's been okay for some of the summer, but now we've got to start waking up a little earlier each day because we are going to be expected at school much earlier than noon. But even routines as far as who's picking them up and what are they doing after school? Where are they going? These are all things to kind of practice and prepare for as the opening of school becomes closer. And then modeling calm behavior. Again, I can't stress enough that kids pick up on even the most subtle cues from their parents or their caregivers. Whether it's our tone of voice, our facial expressions, our body language, they're definitely going to take their cues from us. So again, just remember to reflect on positivity, talk about what a great school year they're going to have, how happy their teachers are going to be to see them, how awesome the school year is going to go. If we're cheerful and energetic about the school year ahead, the kids will be too. And again, I know as parents, some of us are nervous and it is okay to be nervous. However, again, we really need to try and shield our students from what we're feeling and really just try to be their cheerleader and be as positive and energetic about the school year as we can be for them. If you are feeling really nervous about the return to school, it is always okay to reach out. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Hill.
I just wanted to reiterate, I wanted to remind everybody that nervous is normal. And
Absolutely.
It's for our students, it's for our teachers and our school staff, and especially our parents and families.
Absolutely. Nervous is normal. Thank you. Thank you again for giving us that catchphrase because I do think it is so important. But if you are nervous, it's also okay to call school. I know I've been talking to a lot of parents, as has Mr. Perry, and I know the other administrators have been taking a lot of phone calls from families as well. Mrs. Hill is saying, yes, in fact, I have. I know myself over the last 2 weeks, I have had several 20 to 30-minute conversations with parents. I am there to give of my time and to help you feel better about the transition. And I know some of the parents, one mom, when we were getting off the phone said, wow, I feel so much better already. Thank you for just answering my question. So we are here to help. If talking to a friend or talking to a colleague isn't enough, if you have specific questions about school, please feel free to reach out and give us a call. We are here to help and we want to make sure that everybody's transition goes as smooth as possible. So on our next slide, you will see I've just kind of expanded a little bit upon the routines and structure and the importance of this, school approaches. So sleep schedules, what I typically say about this is waiting until the night before school starts is probably not the best time to try and establish a bedtime. And unfortunately, I've kind of fallen into this trap myself at times. But really, I say a good week to 2 weeks before school starts, we really need to start adjusting those sleep schedules. Again, I have a teenager who likes to sleep really late. It's going to take a couple days for sure to kind of push back our bedtime and go to bed earlier, and also the time we wake up, being earlier. So those sleep schedules are really crucial. When children are tired, when kids are tired, they don't learn as well. They're not in the best of moods. They are more likely to be grumpy or nervous or worried. So sleep schedules are really crucial as our return to school approaches. The same thing with their eating schedules or routines, trying to keep consistency around breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, it doesn't have to be at 8 a.m. every single day. And dinner doesn't have to be at 5:30 exactly, but just roughly, so they're not, I know there's days where my kids get playing outside and oops, you didn't have lunch and it's 2 o'clock. So just trying to get back into some sense of routine with our eating schedules, when they're back in school. For those who are coming back to us in person, breakfast and lunch will be at the same time for our students every single day. Screen time, maybe starting to kind of, peel away a little bit at that, not 4 hours on the Xbox anymore, maybe only 2, kind of getting them used to you're going to be at school all day. You may have some homework to do after school. So our time is going to be more limited on screens as well when we are back in school. And also screen time at night. There's a lot of research that talks about a lot of screen time before bed is going to interrupt that sleep schedule. So when we're trying to do that, it's probably best to not have the bulk of our screen time before we go to sleep at night. Practice mask wearing. Again, we have talked about this and that genius parent who put up practicing that while they're on their electronic devices, but practice making sure your child is okay with how it feels, making sure they're okay with wearing it for longer periods of time. Certainly our students will have them off when they're eating breakfast and lunch and when they're outside with their classes, but making sure that they know, why we're wearing masks and have practiced what that is like. And then even just trying to get back into a little bit of school structure with reading, writing, coloring. It does not have to be anything, again, like I said before, school specific. I know our middle schoolers and high schoolers do have some summer work that they can be working on. But our younger students, it doesn't have to be anything specific, just even back into coloring and drawing and using our fine motor skills, maybe cutting some things out, just getting back into some school-based tasks and what things will look like, in a couple of weeks when they return to school. On our next slide, you'll see some signs and symptoms to watch out for. Certainly we understand that all students are experiencing a wide range of feelings right now. For some students, it may be more significant than others. But these are some, signs and symptoms to watch out for if you find that the symptoms are lasting for a long period of time. If you find that you're becoming concerned, with some of these symptoms, for instance, the excessive crying or children who are returning to behaviors they've outgrown, for instance, bedwetting. Maybe one of them are sleeping through the night. If your child is experiencing, headaches, body aches, physical symptoms that maybe they hadn't been complaining about before. If they're having difficulty with sleeping, with focus, with concentration, or acting out behaviors or difficulties. If these are new for your child and they're lasting for what you feel is, several weeks, it may be time to talk to your pediatrician. You may want to reach out. Certainly, we know that there has been an increase in mental health providers being called on during this time, both for adults and for children. So, like we say, nervous is normal, and we know that some of our children are having more symptoms than other children. So if in fact you are concerned about your child, it is always okay to reach out to your pediatrician. They may want to see your child. They may advise, as Mrs. Hill had spoken about, our Northern Rivers Clinic is a place where your social worker, psychologists, or counselors at the schools may refer you to should you have a conversation with them and you are really concerned and you do feel it warrants that referral. And I certainly have that resource for you on one of the upcoming slides. And then I listed for you several resources with different articles, specific resources from the CDC website, as well as some others that you can look through, you can read through, and that may support you during this time as well. And again, there's just some more resources here that I thought were pertinent to today's times with returning to school during a pandemic. We know again that it is different. We know that it is bringing up different feelings in different children. So there's just some more resources there for you that you, if you're interested in reading, the links are there for you.
If I may, for just a moment, Erin Cagwin, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Could you just let us know, please? I links to a lot of resources here, and I just want to be sure when parents and family members want to look at some of these resources later, will they still be available as a hyperlink? It won't just be a video recording, actual PowerPoint will be available too?
So what I'll do when I upload this to YouTube, I'll send out the link to that district-wide and also include any link that was part of the presentation as well, right in the Parent Square email.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your help with all this.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Erin. So here I've listed for you some community resources. They may be some that you are interested in. There may be some you feel you don't need, but I wanted to make sure that they were available to all of our families. There's a link to a general number to call for Capital Region food pantries. There's information on our mental health support line that our Albany County executive set up pretty close to the beginning of the pandemic. It is still active. If anybody is in need of support for dealing with stress or anxiety related to COVID, the number is there for you to call. There's the number to our Albany County Mobile Crisis Team. If you ever feel that your child is ever in need of significant support, you can certainly reach out to them. Our behavioral health link is on this page, which is through Northern Rivers, the school-based behavioral health. When you call, you just need to let them know that your child is a student in the Cohoes City School District. And that office is right at the Cohoes Middle School. So it is super convenient. You do not need to drive to Albany. You do not need to drive far. It is right in our community, and I can't stress enough what a wonderful resource they are right here for our students. And then there is a link to Albany County Mental Health as well. They are a great resource for a lot of our families. So always feel free to reach out to them as well if you feel that your child may be in need of these services. And lastly, here are your support teams. So at the elementary level, I have listed for you who everyone is in each building. I've provided their email address. I find in today's world, that's often the most quick and easy way to communicate with someone. So their emails are there for you if you want to email them ahead of time. If there's anything specific you feel they may need to know about your child, all of their information is there for you.
Also, it would be entirely appropriate if you want to email someone and say, I would love to talk to you about my child. Here's my phone number. Will you please give me a call? So that's another way to make that connection, because people are not in their offices quite yet to answer the phones in their offices. But I know that most of our colleagues in the school district are already checking their emails.
Very good point, Mrs. Hill. Yeah, so if you want to reach out and share your number with them, if there is something you would like to talk to them about, feel free to do so. And then your high school team is also listed there for you. And again, I can't stress enough that while these are your social emotional support teams, as far as staff that is directly trained in this area, the teachers are amazing, the administrators are amazing. If you have questions and you have concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. And Dr. Spring, I don't know if you've got any questions, but we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Well, thank you. This has been an extremely informative presentation. We are so grateful that you have been with us this evening, sharing your knowledge, your skills, and all of your tricks in how to help our parents help their kids have a great year and how to work with us to make sure that happens. So right, I haven't received any emails, but I think we've provided a lot of contact information. If families or parents would like to reach out to us, please feel free. I'm just going to refresh here just to make sure I haven't gotten any more.
So Dr. Spring, we did have one comment in the Q&A section.
Oh, and so I do have, okay, hold on. That's interesting in the Q&A. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Okay, here it is. Okay, I know for the entire team of helpers, it is a stressful time. I offer my support and feel free to use me to vent, consult, and take care of yourselves. Well, that was nice. That's one of our
Thank
parents. I
you,
like
Barry.
that.
I
That's
know
so
who
sweet.
that
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you so much, Barry. We appreciate that.
So, and also here is an email. Okay, tonight's presentation was awesome from a parent. So thank you for emailing us to let us know that. And again, thank you to our presenters. So what I would like to announce is we'd like to have you back for our second virtual Parent Academy session, scheduled for Monday, September 14th at 6 p.m. And the topic will be very practical, navigating the district's digital platforms to support remote learning. So again, stay tuned. And I think that, this is a great idea and we would love to have more of them. So if parents, you have an idea for us, a topic you're interested in hearing about, please let us know and we'd be happy to have a presentation in the future. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'd like to really thank our panelists for doing such an amazing job. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening. Thank you, and we will see you again on September 14th. All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.